Hello, this is Enchanted, and I'm doing a little follow-up video on Dolmen, now that I'm quite a bit further in. First I just want to show off this other interesting enemy, because this is actually a completely interesting area that I've found that seems to be completely optional because of how I found it. But we'll go into that later. For now I just want to show off this cool enemy that appears if we go around this direction. So I'm quite a bit further in now, so I've kind of refined my opinions on the game. So I quite like the enemy designs, and some of the weapons can be quite fun as well, like the, for example, I now know how the stats effects actually work. You need to kill the meter, and with ice it makes you do some bonus damage every time you hit an enemy. And I think with fire, when you kill the meter, it starts draining their health. But there's not as much stuff that's weak to fire than there is that's weak to ice. And also here I'm doing pretty badly fighting this thing. I'm basically dead now anyway. Whoops. But yeah, I just want to show off that pretty cool enemy. And now I'm going to actually show off the boss of this area, because I quite like it. It's got some really cool music. Also, the weapon I'm currently equipped with is actually a boss weapon. Something that's a little bit annoying with the bosses is, to get the boss weapon you have to fight each boss 3 times, because they're unique signature equipments, like materials. You need 3 of them to actually unlock the thing. That little terminal to the left that you just saw is what we'd use to respawn this boss once we beat it, which won't be happening in this video, but I'm also just showing off. In the distance there you can actually see the enemy that just jumped out on top of that building. So this is the way to the actual boss. I really love the music here. I'm just going to let that play. No, this boss actually get me pretty good at parrying, like this. That's quite satisfying to parry this guy. Which is how I've got so far into this fight. And also, if you notice, if you hit an enemy while it's already iced up, it actually refills the ice meter, which is nice. So you can keep the ice going as long as you can, if you're playing well enough. I'm still kind of learning this guy, because the second half of the fight, he gets some really mean moves. And that's not one of them, but essentially, later in the fight, I'm going to do another attempt just to kind of do better at it, because that was just me showing off. But I really like the way the music kind of synced up a little bit with the gunshots there as well. That's quite satisfying. That's quite fun. I always like when things line up like that. It reminded me of when my brother was playing the final boss of the Spider-Man DLC on PS4, the Hammerhead boss, and I started playing the Metal Gear Rising final boss theme, and it synced up perfectly. It was hilarious. I just started playing it on my phone while I was in his room watching him play. But I love this opening riff. So yeah, as it's a Souls-like thing, if you run over your own body there, you can actually get whatever you left behind, but there's not really anything to leave behind. Also, I found out what that crystal icon in the bottom right of the, the top right does, that little crystal thing next to the experience amount. What it actually does is that is the materials you use to respawn bosses. You often need like 3 or 4 of them to actually respawn a boss. Yeah, I really like how satisfying parrying is now that I've got the hang of it. Almost. But yeah, as you can see, some of these attacks can be a little bit... And this is the kind of point where it marks the second part of the fight. And this is kind of where I start to get a bit stuck, because this is where the guy starts getting a bit cheeky. But something I quite like here is when you get caught in the web, you can actually just cut the web. That's quite a fun thing. But as you can see, it's doing a lot more damage now. And I can't really keep ice up because I need to be able to fill my ammo meter a bit more. Because of course, the ammo meter has this whole thing going on where the ammo for normal guns and like weak attacks temporarily drains and then refills itself. So if you can keep that meter full, then great. But if you get hurt too much and you have to heal, healing permanently uses some of it, so then you have to find time to refill it. And that's really difficult to do at times. I just want to show off that boss because it's quite cool. Now I'm going to show off why I think this area is optional. Let's go backwards. And I can also show you this really cool area of just really cool enemies, because it's something I'm liking now I'm far enough into the game. You get some really cool enemy types. Now here's why I think this is an optional area, because as you can see we're on this weird sort of a ledge on the far left of the area, kind of going around the back end, which I was only able to access by going behind that building after going up an elevator. But these are the cool enemies, these massive insects that just fire these giant lasers. Of course they're kind of more an environmental hazard, but I was kind of curious as well to see if I could try and actually kill these things. Because as you can see doing that, they actually have a health bar, which I just discovered doing this recording. So I'm going to head over there and see if I can actually figure out how to kill this thing. But also that guy's now seen me. Now that looks scary, but it's actually very satisfying if you can do it right, because you can deflect these back. I didn't do it right there, but if you do, it does huge damage to those guys. So yeah, here I'm still figuring out how to actually do damage to it. As you can see, the health bar's not really changing much. I thought it was like, oh, fire in the mouth while it's open, maybe, and it's just like, nope, that's not the trick. There's currently a shield on the back. That seems like a power source. Maybe fire the power source. Nope. So what you actually have to do here is something I'll figure out about here, I think. It is very satisfying when I figure it out, though. What I think first of all to do is take out this little guy. As you can see, he's now closer to the wall, so it's now easier for me to just shoot. And here's the trick. Actually figure out how to take it out. Just shoot it in the mouth while it's not firing. That's the trick. As you can see, it actually dies pretty quickly. It's just, it also fires pretty quickly. Now this area, when you first enter it, you end up from the other end, so you have to kind of weave through all these giant lasers, while dealing with those little guys with, some with guns, some with swords. And it's actually quite a fun set piece. This is quite a fun area that I quite like, and now that I've actually killed it, it's actually not that bad. You get like 450 experience for doing something very easy. So this might actually end up being a pretty good grinding spot. Just respawn that guy, come back and just kill him for an easy 500 experience each attempt. Of course, at this point in the game I need about 9,000 experience to level up, so it would take a while. And here I'm trying to see if I can hit this guy from, like in the mouth as well, but not from here though. I'd need to be on the other side of the room, so for that I would need to go into more dangerous territory. So it's only really one of them you can actually kill quite easily, but as you can see, this is why I think this is an optional area, because of how tricky this little ledge is. It's very kind of awkward, and it feels like it's something I kind of found by accident, and that's quite fun. Now, something I quite like with this game so far is, while it's quite linear, it does have moments like this where it gives a really good feeling of discovery. Also, it does have cutscenes as well at times, like you get actual like introductions to bosses and stuff, but also sometimes you actually get like cutscenes where you just go to certain areas showing like what the villains are doing and that kind of stuff, and getting an idea of what's happening. So here I'm trying to reload the area to see if I can respawn the big insect thing, because sometimes that's enough, but in this case it's not, because it doesn't respawn if you just leave the area. Which is good to know for future reference as well, so leaving an area doesn't actually respawn the enemies in the previous one. At least if you're only one area away anyway. It might end up working on Kingdom Hearts rules where two more areas. But you can also interact with this, and that forces everything to respawn while also refilling all of your things. So this is just me making sure that, just because I want to make sure these big things weren't a one-off thing, that like once you killed it stayed dead, because some enemies are like that in some Souls-like games, but nope, right there. Hello, giant insect. Firing its giant lasers. I'm also going to show off another boss that I've got too. The actual mandatory boss that I need to get through, just to kind of show off. It's a bit of a pain, but you'll see why. It's in the power plant. Because I need to get to the power plant to unlock a door in the area you just saw. The power plant's a pretty cool area. It's very kind of, it's not difficult to navigate, but it can be somewhat dangerous because there's a lot of sheer drops, because it's a lot of just narrow walkways. But something I quite like is you can actually see the boss arena from here, that area over there with like the little pillars. Because these pillars are actually part of the boss fight, because what they end up doing is there's somewhere the boss can retreat to heal itself. So as he goes into the fight, you kind of want to try and destroy those. Which the boss makes a little bit annoying, but I've found certain techniques for it as well. Because this boss, I was kind of like, I went back to the optional boss because this one was giving me a lot of trouble. But now it feels like I've kind of worked out the trick, now that I've got this weapon especially. Because this weapon fills the ice meter so quickly, and the boss is weak to ice. Because the little pistol I had that was doing like ice before, it didn't feel like it was really filling very much. And it took a bit of like, it's a bit finicky getting it to rapid fire. You can do it, but it doesn't really work very easily. And of course we only have half ammo right now because we took some damage and had to heal, which is a little annoying. So you really need to be kind of careful dealing with this sort of thing. Especially when that happens, you end up dealing with a new one that you didn't expect to deal with, and suddenly you get accidentally hit from a screen, and it's just like, oh great, now there's something else I need to heal. But this is also part of it, is look how much long that takes to refill your ammo. You do not want that to happen in a boss fight. That's like, there are some points in boss fights where you can kind of like take time, like some bosses have particularly, like this one actually has a particularly long attack that you can actually use to quickly get your mana back. But these things, I tried to shoot them from here because we're actually weak to fire, but they actually have this barrier up, and the barrier only goes away once you actually enter the boss, which is this thing, the Pharaoh Nightmare, which I like the name of that. As you can see, the thing's now ticking down a bit, so this is kind of the safest way to take those out. But you still don't want to do it, you still want to pay attention to what this thing's doing, because it does a lot of damage. So I think the trick's going to be, let it do a thing like this. And then while it's doing that attack, then start attacking the pods while it's doing that, or while it's doing this attack as well. It's a pretty good time for it. I'm not doing it here because I worked that out after the fact, but now I'm equipped with a slow weapon like an idiot without meaning to. But you don't really want to come all the way over here and do it like this, because these areas are actually a little bit smaller, and now we're kind of like cornered by this fucker. There wasn't really much we could do there. And again, if we fall off these ledges, it's game over and we have to come back again. I do like this creature though, the Pharaoh Nightmare. It's basically a beetle with a Triceratops head, and that's very fun. Yeah, this is kind of the problem there. I almost got knocked off the ledge there. This is why going all the way out here is quite a dangerous move, because this thing will do that attack. Not all the time, but it will try. As you can see, I'm actually doing a surprising amount of damage just shooting it with the ice gun, which is interesting because when I was using the pistol, I was doing barely any damage at all. But now I'm using the actual ice gun, like the big ice rifle thing. It's actually doing a pretty decent chunk of health with every volley. And it's the safest way to do damage to this thing as well. Because this thing getting close is bad. Because again, it does a lot of nasty attacks. You end up wasting a lot of time trying to get close to it to do physical damage as well. This is one of those fights that you have to be kind of careful. Yeah, this is where the problem comes in. We're now very low on health, with not anything to heal with. Yeah, the Pharaoh Nightmare's currently a boss is giving me a bit of trouble, but I'm getting better and better at it though. That was the best one I had so far. I'm going to give it another go just to kind of like see if I can get better at it. But this game is quite fun and I got further into it, because the previous boss I was showing off was a little bit static, but these bosses are a lot more dynamic, and it's fun being able to actually like use deflecting on them and things like that. And here's what I wanted to show off actually. This is the problem with the boss stuff, is you need 3 of each thing to actually make the boss weapons, which means again you have to fight each boss 3 times. So that's quite annoying to have to do, because that means you have to farm those little crystal things so you can respawn them, and that's just a pain. I only did it to get that sword because it was a little bit stronger, but it also scales with my science stat rather than my normal stats, so it's a little bit like, it feels like it's a little bit underleveled right now. But something I do quite like though is when you create these weapons and items, you can actually use items on them in the 2 or 3 slots. And this is just showing off the technology system where certain combinations of equipment give you these little points to these 3 trees, and as you get more and more points, they kind of like give you those little side buffs, like the ability to heal when dealing damage, and also the ability to heal just a little bit more when we use our battery to heal our blue meter. So that's very fun. Also, of course, it has the Dark Souls style weapon system where you can equip up to 2 of each thing at a time, and as I mentioned, you have the Estus Flasks on the bottom with the energy, although they work very differently. And yeah, here's me showing off that respawning each boss does require 3 of those little Dolmen crystal things on the bottom, and that's quite annoying. Also, you get greatly reduced nanites for it. Like when I first beat the twins that you mentioned there, it only gave me 18,000. Now you only get 6,000 for one. But it's quite a fun game. I'm quite enjoying, especially now that I'm getting better at it and figuring out these bosses. So I just want to show that off a little bit and talk about it a bit further now that I've elevated my opinion of it. So I'll see you next time. Goodbye. I would like to thank James Rossi for supporting me on Patreon as my Bio-Enchanted leg tier. I really hope other people can also join my Patreon to help support my channel and help improve the amount of resources I have for making better videos and being able to put more time into more elaborate thumbnails and title cards and things like that. Because I'd like to be able to have more time to really work on those kind of visual aspects beyond the actual video itself. Thank you.